So it seems like the markets could care less about the downgrade of U.S. debt, but we still don't know yet. The day is early. It's like 12 o'clock right now. Um, Markets are above where they opened, substantially above their open, but they opened substantially lower. So essentially, they're pretty much around where they were on Friday. So the 30-year, the big news was it's over 5%. Mortgage rates are going up. Uh, Borrowing, whatever, is going to cost more money. And for the moment, things are kind of just inching down and they've stabilized here. So we're going to see where they're all going to go. And looking at the broader markets, you can see they look pretty darn good still. Meaning we'll see where they're going to close. But they gap down, not all of them. The S&P's gapped down under one bar's low. Some of the others gapped below a couple of bars lows. So as we look at multiple time frames, the daily is still trending up. The 65-minute is still trending up. It gapped down, and you can see right here where my cursor is onto some support and what we would call minor support, that resistance area that it was able to get above. So gapping down that much could be the start of a turn. We'll see where it closes. Things that close where they are right now, that would assume they're going to go higher. However, they're into the what we call the gap fill area. You see the S&Ps are just chopping sideways here, going nowhere. It's lunchtime, and the thing is to wait and see what they do. Even if they were to break out above and get above the opening price, I think the upside would be limited at this point. Just looking at eyeballing the day-to-day range, it's about equal to what has preceded it, and in these other prior days, about equal to that. So the likelihood of going much higher from here, even if it can get above the open, probably isn't going to be very much. And so as it forms these pivots here, it tells us that supply is increasing, and the question is, can it break below the low pivots on the 5-minute chart, which then would shift our bias to moving down toward the opening price, the blue line. Still, this would be in an uptrend and starting to go sideways. So we're kind of in the middle of no man's land. This is up. This is somewhat in question, and this is going sideways. So as we look at other markets, see, are there differences that would lead us to think something different? So the Q's gap down below several bars lows. You can see here, down below these pivots. So we'd look at this trend as being sideways at this point, but it's into the gap fill where resistance is. Pivot highs, pivot lows, relatively close together, nothing to do. Can it get above? Will it break below? We're waiting to see what it does. We continue looking at other markets to see, are there differences? And we can look at the transports. They still look good. Going sideways, gapped under a prior bar's low, same situation, nothing to do. Biotech's weaker. They're holding up. Really nothing to do. Wait to see how they close. Financials had this little weird blip to the downside. And I first saw it happen in JP Morgan. Then I looked at Goldman Sachs and said, oh, what happened here? Right? Why the big reaction? And it wound up coming all the way back. So until, I don't know, some news maybe comes out, we would hear something gyrated. It could be an algo, who knows. In any event, it retraced all the way back to the top of this big down bar. The daily is in an uptrend. We'll see where it's going to close. Diamonds look great. Right? The day is not over, but it gapped down. It's up near the high. If it can close this way, the assumption is it's gonna go higher. And it's the only way to look at it. It's bullet sideways at resistance, and again, the gap down got bought. And at the moment, it would seem nobody cares about the U.S. debt getting downgraded, but you got to keep an eye on these interest rates to see, do they start rallying back up? And if they do, I suspect then the markets would roll over at that resistance area. What's doing well today? Healthcare, which has got pretty well beaten up over the last couple of months. So that's just a little minor reaction. So not a big deal, even though it's up at the top of the list. Consumer staples is defensive, and that usually does better when the markets begin to worry. So this is going sideways at all those pivots, resistance. And we could look at what's doing well there. So Dollar General breaking out doesn't give us an entry point, coming up into a resistance area. It's in an uptrend, so we think it could go higher, but it's not an entry point. Um, that's below the pivot. So as we look at what's doing well, it doesn't always mean that it'll continue to do well. It just means in the moment it's doing better than something else. And you can see Tyson Foods is up on the day percentage-wise, but in a downtrend. TBT is up there because the big move. Gold is up, but in question. Block just continues to grind higher, and there's gold and Bitcoin. So GBTC, the Bitcoin ETF, gap down, reversal sideways, a little extended from the 20, but working it off by going sideways. Looks like if it closes well, like a lot of things, it could break out and go higher. A few others, industrials, gap reversal, gap reversal. So one of the things to look for, what could possibly be weak? Well, anything that we say is below its open. Let's do this. Let's go this way. Below its open, well, not a big deal. So if I put it on percentage-wise, it's just as above or below the open. It's tough to find anything in this materials ETF. But if we go and look at spiders, and we can find a bunch of stuff below its open. And then we have to look to see what kind of pattern does it form. And so this is coming down. Maybe it's headed for a gap fill. In any event, if it's below its opening price today, it's showing relative weakness. Then from there, you got to look and see how it's reacting. So Caesars was one that was on our list to potentially go higher, like a lot of things because of Friday's close. But now it's gapping below this support, and it's below the open. Does it end this way? Even though it's moved up, it would suggest coming down into the support area. So it's what we call the factory work. Looking at the broader markets, is it an uptrend on the daily or in a downtrend with 65-minute, 5-minute? Of course, you could look at the weekly, which is in a giant trading range. And then from there, comparing, showing relative strength or weakness, looking at different sectors, different stocks. And so as we get into the latter part of today, the question will be, what's above the open? What's near the high of the day? What's in an uptrend? What's still going sideways, like the diamonds? And what could potentially move higher or lower? If you have questions, email us. Greg and Dan at Master Trader.